What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Life on Beagle Road. Welcome back to the chicken tractor build. I'm a bit more refreshed today, which is a good thing, because the other night, I wasn't looking so good, and I still had to go inside and edit. But we're back outside in the garage, and I've got all the pieces mocked up. They're just clamped up for right now. I haven't secured anything. We're gonna do that outside, but I wanted to make sure everything was good while it was still inside. And yes, my shop is big enough to construct this entire thing here in the shop. I know, it's crazy. I'm a well-kept man. It's also what happens when your wife's list of projects is way too big. I want to show you a couple things that I changed just ever so slightly. And I also want to talk about some of the measurements that were a bit off. I don't know if I was working with older plans or the newer plans. I know he's got newer plans. All I know is I printed these up a long time ago and had them on my computer because I knew one day I was going to construct this thing. But I don't know exactly when the new plans and old plans sort of all switched around. Either way, what I know is some of the measurements were off and I had to fiddle with it. But let's be real, it wouldn't be a Kenny Archer project if I didn't have to fiddle with it just a little bit. Just a little bit. The first thing I did was I didn't use wood to support the frame. I actually used these ties, these Simpson ties. I don't know the exact name of them, but they work and they actually help to keep the door from going past, and they support the actual frame of the doorway. So I use that. Makes it a tad lighter. I'm gonna secure some smaller ones on the door. I already did that on the bottom. If you're wondering why they're painted, it's because I didn't have 3/4 inch screws for these. I had to use some other screw that I had. I'm pretty sure they're not galvanized, so I wanted to paint them just to make sure. Honestly, I think they'll be fine, but it's better that I paint them now and not when they're all rusted up. So one of the problems that I ran into is I made all of my cuts to the exact measurements that were in the plans. Also, I double checked those measurements just to make sure that they were correct. So as I was putting everything together, I started to do the math and I realized something doesn't quite add up. So the bottom piece is supposed to be the length that it is, and then the two top braces, they end up being a tad short. It's gonna be fine, it's not a big deal, but you know, now you can see that they're a tad short. If that starts to give way at some point, I'll fix it, brace it, it'll be fine. For now though, I think we're good. My doorway and my door itself were made from 1x4s, which is what the plans called for. The problem is they weren't 3.5 inches wide like most 1x4s. They were actually wider than that. So I didn't have 24 inches inside here, or 24.5 I think is what it ended up being. Mine was actually smaller, so I did have to trim the door down just a bit. You won't even notice, and honestly, when it all comes down to it, this is a chicken tractor. We're gonna be good. My next step is to bend the pipe. Now, I practiced that before I filmed it, and I'm really glad I did, but I'm gonna show you why. Because bending pipe was definitely not something I had done before, and it really isn't that difficult, except when you think you know how to do it, so you don't bother to make sure you know how you do it, and then you end up with something a little like this. We're gonna pretend that this didn't happen, because then my next one was a little bit better. If you notice, my line is right here, which isn't really the center, and then there's a little bit of a kink right here. So that was try number 2. Attempt number 3 is pretty stinking good. If I can tell you anything about the pipe bending, it's that maybe you should buy a few extra pipes just in case you screw it up. All right, I'm gonna show you how I did this pipe bending, and you can all criticize me in your comments, but I don't really care. I'm not a professional pipe bender, so I'm good. The next thing I'm gonna do is mark 5 inches back. That's my offset mark. I need an offset because on the pipe bender, it tells you that it's 6 inches to the stubs. So I should go back 6 inches, but what I found is 5 inches is exactly where I want it to be. I'm gonna say, like most of this, it's a chicken tractor. It's all gonna be good in the end. As long as you've got enough on the ends to be able to secure it, you should be golden. Now I gotta do the bottom corners. I did one already. And you can see I did a pretty decent job on them. Okay, so now I'm gonna bend those as well. Once those are all bent, we'll take this sucker out, start putting it together. Oh, and I'll drill some holes. Drilling the holes can be a bit of a challenge if you don't have someone here with you or you don't rig something up. I have a vise, so I stuck my pipe in the vise. I'll take a punch, put a little bit of an indentation. That'll let me know where to drill. It'll keep my bit from wandering, and I can drill right through it. I have the frame out here all laid out, ready to be assembled. I pre-drilled all the holes before I ever brought it out. I apologize, but the cicadas are on fleek right now, and I'm pretty sure it's still the middle of rush hour, so you're gonna hear the highway or the cicadas. I'll play some music. I got the frame all assembled, and all of a sudden it got really dark out here. In the corners, I reinforced them. On one side is a toe-nailed screw, or screwed in diagonally, and then on the outside are 3 screws going directly into the wood. If you're wondering why I put wood blocks underneath the corners, that was so that way I could get the boards actually at the same level, or as close as I could get it. The stone driveway isn't all that level, not nearly as level as the garage floor, so I didn't want there to be any kind of like high-low spots. So that kind of helps me out a little bit. I don't know if it really worked, but I ended up using the clamps to do most of it anyway. The reason that I did both is because at some of the spots I was screwing into end grain, and screws into end grain will eventually fail. It's just nothing you can do about it. It's the weak part of the wood splits, yada yada yada. So the toe-nailed parts will actually support it a little bit better. So I'm gonna take a short time out and then come back and put on the metal. I forgot to drill the holes in that one. So fix that, get back to screwing them in. Okay, major mistake. I didn't space them out far enough. And I'm already seeing that the one that I bent first is absolutely terrible. So I may have to move that one too. All right, well, I double checked the measurements and it's supposed to be 3 feet, 4 feet in the middle, and then 3 feet. Mine are 2.5 and 2.5 on the outside. So I'll just move it in 6 inches. Wasn't as bad as I thought. No big deal. I will say this, these things right here are already at that 3 foot mark. So I'm gonna go off to the side of those anyway. So it turns out it didn't really matter, but I will shorten the space between. Otherwise I got a big gap. I don't want a big gap. Well folks, there you have it. The frame is together, the roof is on. Now it's just time to put the chicken wire and the tarp, the wheels, the rope, get the feeder on. I'll see you on the next one. Silly me, I almost forgot my favorite part. Zip ties for the ridge beam. It'll be there next time. At least I got to play with zip ties. I just dropped them, so I just figured I'd drop them all.